Good morning. I am Theodore Roosevelt. One snowy afternoon, the White House gang attended Chase's Polite Vaudeville Theater near the Treasury Department. The boys arrived, all properly attired with their Eton collars, in a White House carriage. The weather had been damp and chill, but the theater was thoroughly warmed. The boys were ushered to a box, as Quentin informed them, at great expense by my mother. The heat of the place was like a Turkish bath. To the gang's surprise and Quentin's evident annoyance, someone in the orchestra recognized Quentin. There was an instant craning of necks, a murmur, and finally a ripple of applause as the boys seated themselves, endeavoring not to notice the demonstration. The vaudeville progressed politely, and as the excitement rose, the gang began to drip with perspiration. "Take off your coats," Quentin said. So the gang removed their coats. Presently, their enthusiasm being enhanced by a juggling act and a precarious chair-balancing tower, their collars began to wilt. "Take 'em off," said Quentin. So the gang removed their collars. The jugglers took their bows, the curtains rung down, and the lights went up for the intermission. This sudden illumination discovered to the audience 5 Eton collars perched in a row upon the wide velvet edge of the box. Their owners had vanished. There was much laughter and tremendous applause from the audience. Suddenly realizing its coatless and collarless state, the gang had dropped as one boy to the floor of the box. "By buzzard," Quentin said. He was still on his hands and knees and reaching up for his collar from behind the solid edge of the box. "That wasn't polite at all. They just shouldn't have noticed it." One by one the collars disappeared from view of the audience, which loudly applauded each fresh disappearance. As the gang crawled across the floor of the box in single file and out through the curtain at the back. There they waited, more or less stunned by the furor of the ovation, yet secretly pleased by it. They stood behind the curtain until the intermission was over, and the lights were turned low, before they ventured back to their seats, only to be met by a round of applause more prolonged than before. This was the end of the gang's act, and the actors upon the stage had to wait until the audience was through with the gang before they could resume. "Sit still," Quentin advised, speaking out of the side of his mouth and looking straight ahead of him, into the sea of faces. "If we get up and bow as everyone expects us to do, we'll be blamed for the whole thing." As the show continued, there was a number of impromptu lines directed toward the gang and the collars, to the huge delight of the audience. The gang, however, was rather fed up with that sort of thing long before the end of the performance was reached.